Yeah, we have a question from Andres. Let's see it
Mhm.
together. Does anyone of you guys have experience using lean startup in your work in innovation? So I do, but I would love to hear if Jimmy has anything to say about lean startup. Thanks, Andres.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Anas. Yes, we do. So I'd say, within let's say the notions from lean startup in terms of, you know, building a prototype or prototype and making sure that you do efficient sprints that are short.
Right.
That's definitely something I've worked with in my you can say in my career at our innovation group, because that's basically the essence of doing learning loops and working with the learning plan methodology. So definitely, and that's something that I would say, if you want to venture in the world of more corporate entrepreneurship and strategic innovation, that a methodology like that and similar methodologies are super powerful, because it kind of adapts a different mindset, saying that I don't make a big plan for 5 years ahead. I look forward and I do small learning sprints, and then control my resources to the best of my ability in case it fails. Well, then I can always pivot and go into a different direction. So the notion of lean startup and similar methodologies is something I like very much for working particularly with strategic innovation. So excellent question, Anas. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. I could just add that this is what I'm doing more or less, because I come from startups and tech, and this is how I help companies do innovation. But for me, it's like doing small bets. Instead of like, we know that if we'll take like a few millions, place it in a factory, we know it will work because we tried it in the past. When we don't know and things that are uncertain, we need to do these small cycles and tests, and even create a portfolio with many of projects and products and services, just to test them out. And from these small cycles, we learn so much, and it's so invaluable for companies right now. So thank you for your question. So why governance is so important for innovation? This is something that was new to me when we talked, so I think it's really important to think about it.
Yeah. So if you think about the ownership structure of companies and how things are put together, it's typically in the sense that the ultimate stakeholders that you have to be careful about are the shareholders or stakeholders. And the shareholders, they are the ultimate voice of many, publicly owned companies where the majority stakes are out there, so to say, in the shareholders market. Then you have a board of directors who basically answer to the shareholders and are the shareholders' voice. And under that, then you have the C-suite, you have the CEO, who ultimately carries the responsibility of the progression of the company. And then you have the C-suite, and then you have everything below. Think about that. What is it that shareholders want? Shareholders, they typically want that you pay out dividends for them, or they want to see their stock increase. That's typically the for-profit mantra for many shareholders. Those are the two things you're looking into if you own shares. That also is reflected in the CEO incentive packages. Typically, CEOs in many large corporates, they have a fixed pay plus an incentive pay. The incentive pay varies a little bit, could be related to earnings per share or similar. So you would mimic something that is internal to the company, but also how the the stock market is reacting. And that's a very sound way of doing it, because we know from research that the stock market and the intrinsic value of companies, so a company's ability to make money in the future, to generate cash flows, harmonizes over time. Of course, it means that there are crashes, there are bubbles, there are essences where some things are really overvalued, some stocks can be undervalued, but generally speaking, over time, those two things follow. So the intrinsic value of a company and the stock market price of a share over time aligns. Okay, so if we follow that in mind, that you have an incentive package in the C-suite that aligns with the shareholder, incentives, is a good thing to do. But at the same time, it means that you have a structure and a governance that secures and wants to secure profit and positive cash flow. It also means that when many large companies, they measure the value of new innovation projects and others, they want to do either an NPV, an ECV, or risk-adjusted NPV. That means they're trying to calculate the cash flows that this is going to give the company in the future and discount it for today so you can pick the best project. This logic is completely sound in the sense that it's in full alignment with the incentive package of the CEO, and it's also in alignment with the shareholders that they want to either, you can say, get dividends paid out, from the year's result, or they want to see the stock price go up. And we know that the stock price is related to the intrinsic value, right?
Right.
So you see here that this is a system that has been orchestrated over years of how do you run, you can say, a for-profit business that is profit-oriented. It's so nicely put together. The challenge here, I would say, Adi, is that you see every stakeholder in powerful positions of companies have the same incentive in mind, and it's the same incentive that is given to anyone in the company. That is, we need to be a profitable company. Now, governance, if you want to govern for also strategic innovation, and let's say you come up and say, well, we have to invest in some new fundamental science that could take 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years to materialize. Well, in the meantime, what are your shareholders going to say? Why aren't they seeing the profits they're supposed to see?
Right.
And I think so governing to control these two information streams is extremely important. Now, whether that's a dual governance system that a CEO has to manage, or you can somehow integrate it, there's a lot of debates as to which type of company can handle which type of mode. But you see, the governance is actually what triggers the behavior of many for-profit large companies. Because if you had a CEO coming in and saying, now we're not going to be so focused on profits anymore, well, we are, but just have a little patience, 5 years or so into the future. At the same time, we know that the average tenure for a CEO in large enterprises is 5 years.